did you do after losing everything just days before your wedding? 3 days before I was supposed to get married, my own sister took the one person I trusted most. What she didn't realize was that her greatest victory would become the biggest mistake of her life. Looking back, the warning signs had always been there. My sister Maya had spent her entire life being everyone's favorite. She was effortlessly beautiful, naturally charming, and somehow always managed to get exactly what she wanted. While I worked for everything I earned, things simply fell into her lap. As kids, she'd borrow my clothes without asking. Later, she stole my friends. Eventually, she started taking the guys I cared about too. When I was 16, my crush, Tommy, ended up taking her to prom instead of me because she'd convinced him she was the better choice. Years later, while I was studying overseas, she moved in with my college boyfriend. Every single time, my parents brushed it aside. Maya never means any harm, Mom would always insist. People are just naturally drawn to her. I wanted to believe that excuse. Then the first met Jake, we spent 4 incredible years together before getting engaged. For 8 months, we planned every detail of our future. He loved how I could make him laugh after terrible days in the kitchen while chasing his dream of opening a restaurant. I believed in him when even his own family doubted he'd succeed. I invested my savings because I believed in us. Most importantly, I believed he was different. Jake had watched Maya flirt with countless men. He'd rolled his eyes whenever she criticized my wedding choices or made little comments meant to chip away at my confidence. When she accidentally spilled wine on our engagement photos, she blamed the lighting and joked that I looked washed out anyway. Jake laughed it off, and so did I. I never imagined they were laughing for another reason. Our rehearsal dinner couldn't have been more perfect. My dad proudly welcomed Jake into our family, speaking about finding the right person and building a life together. Jake reached under the table and squeezed my hand. Across from us sat Maya, glowing in her sapphire bridesmaid dress, smiling as she toasted to our happiness. She even became emotional during my maid of honor speech about sisterhood and standing by each other through every challenge. Raising her champagne glass, she smiled and said, "To Claire and Jake, may you always choose each other first." 2 nights later, I couldn't sleep. With less than 18 hours until the ceremony, I figured the nerves were normal. Everything was ready. My dress hung perfectly pressed. The caterer had confirmed the final guest count. The rings were safely with Jake's best man. I decided to surprise Jake with coffee so we could spend one last quiet morning together before becoming husband and wife. I unlocked his apartment with my spare key, exactly as I had hundreds of times before. Then my entire world shattered. Jake and Maya were in his bed. The white silk lingerie I'd bought for my honeymoon was wrapped around her legs. My engagement ring rested on the nightstand beside empty champagne glasses. Maya noticed me first. She didn't look guilty. She looked victorious. "I was going to tell you," she said calmly, making no effort to hide. Jake stumbled over apology after apology, claiming he was confused and insisting he still loved me. Before he could continue, Maya laughed. "Stop pretending," she said. "We've been planning this for months." Then she looked directly at me. "Tell her about Vegas. Tell her what happened at Christmas when you called me by my name in your sleep." Months. While I had been choosing flowers, tasting wedding cakes, mailing invitations, and planning every detail of our future, they had been secretly planning my humiliation. Every late night Jake blamed on restaurant work suddenly made sense. Every shopping trip Maya canceled because she supposedly had other plans. Even their eagerness to organize the photographer and videographer now felt calculated. They weren't helping with my wedding. They were preparing for its destruction. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply turned around and walked away. Behind me, Jake desperately called my name, begging me to listen. Maya's voice followed, sharp and confident, telling him to let me go. For 6 long hours, I sat alone in my car at the same beach where Jake had proposed. I stared at the engagement ring on my finger, expecting tears that never came. Instead of grief, something colder replaced it. For years, Maya had taken pieces of my life, and I'd forgiven her every single time. But this betrayal wasn't just another stolen boyfriend. This time, she'd destroyed the future I'd spent years building. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't planning to forgive her.